It might make some people quite uncomfortable to see lots of people milling around on tubes and trains without a face mask on after the last year or so, when everybody has been so incredibly cautious. So there is a sense that some people might feel more comfortable if there was guidance in place to allow them to continue to do that. Now, we know that the case rates are still rising. The expectation from the government is today the message will be that those cases could continue to rise and so could deaths. But actually now that link between the virus and the incredibly high death rate that we've seen in the past has been broken, and now really is the right time to move to a stage of more personal responsibility over how we live our lives in the next stage of COVID-19. That doesn't mean, though, it will be easy, and politicians and scientists are all making their own decisions about where they may or may not be wearing face masks, including Helen Whately, a government minister, and Stephen Parris, who's an NHS boss, both of whom said different things this morning about where they might continue to wear masks.
Of course, I, like others, will plan to follow the guidance on when you should or shouldn't wear them. We're going to be asking people much more to take personal responsibility for choices like that. I know, like many others, I can't wait to not have to wear a mask, but I will be cautious and try and make the right judgments and follow guidance on this.
I think there will be personal choices. We've all developed some habits over the last year and a half, such as washing hands more frequently, staying away from people, not going to work if you feel unwell. Those should continue because they not only cut rates of COVID, but other infections too, such as flu as we get into winter. And then it will be a common sense personal choice. I might choose to wear a mask, as you've heard from Callum, in a crowded indoor environment. So we will see over the next few months.
There's some different opinions there, and I did mention transport might be one of the flashpoints going forward, and it's interesting because particularly in London this might be an issue. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has issued a statement saying that he would really like to see the government maintain that rule about wearing face masks, and if that doesn't happen then there will be discussions between Transport for London and other train operators about what the best way forward would be. They will be entitled to set their own rules of carriage for people travelling on the network. They could say, for example, that you would have to wear a face mask, but if it's not legally enforceable then that might make things difficult. So it'd be interesting to see how the transport companies navigate the next stage.
Yeah, it will be. Kate, other news today, a new MP arriving in Westminster.
Yeah, a bit of joy, a bit of an exciting moment for certainly the Labour Party and new MP Kim Leadbeater, who has joined Parliament. She's been sworn in this afternoon, and she also met some of her new Labour colleagues in Parliament this afternoon too, and she was pretty excited about it. She looked to be enjoying the occasion. You can see her there being sworn in the House of Commons, that pretty formal ceremony. Not as many people as you would usually see there on those green benches because, of course, still maintaining the COVID restrictions in the chamber. But once she's done that ceremony, she will be able, of course, to speak in the House of Commons. And the new MP for Batley and Spen, the seat that Labour won, albeit narrowly. And, of course, Kim Leadbeater takes over from her sister, Jo Cox, who was an MP previous to the former Labour MP, of course, who gave up the seat to become a regional city mayor. So it's a big moment for her today, a big moment for the Labour Party too. And there she is with Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, meeting some of the shadow cabinet a short time ago just outside the House of Commons there. So I think you can see clearly quite how excited she is, the big smile on her face visible.
Brilliant. Kate McCann, thank you very much. Let's get more now on the Prime Minister's news conference, which is, of course, happening at 5 o'clock. We can speak to a Professor of Social Psychology at the University of St Andrews and member of a SAGE subcommittee that advises the government on behavioural science, Stephen Riker. He joins me now. Stephen, good afternoon to you. We were just hearing from our political correspondent, Kate McCann, there about what the Prime Minister is likely to say at his news conference at 5 o'clock this evening. And it's face masks. Face masks seem to be the big bone of contention at the moment in terms of, we are expected to be told by the government, it will come down to personal choice. And that may present some problems in society.
Well, I think nobody is going to say that people shouldn't take responsibility and shouldn't act in ways that keep themselves safe, but also keep others safe and keep their community safe. This isn't just about personal responsibility, it's about social responsibility. And one of the reasons why we've got through this pandemic is because so many people have acted not for themselves, but for their communities, have been prepared not to do things that would potentially harm others. So I think, first of all, I would stress responsibility, but I would stress social responsibility. Second thing I would say is it's all all very well to tell people to take responsibility, but you've also got to help them to be able to do so and do so effectively. Now, the first thing is that if we are to do the things that keep us safe, we need good and clear messaging. And I think at the moment, all the messaging is telling us, well, look, there isn't a problem at all here. Indeed, getting rid of all restrictions sends a very clear message that there isn't a problem, and that in itself is going to affect behaviour in a major way. So if you look at things the other way around, if we take face masks, then last year, when the evidence began to emerge that they made a difference in terms of us stopping infecting others and stopping getting infected, the government said to people, please wear face masks. It didn't have much effect. For stubbornly, the numbers of people wearing face masks stuck at about 20%. When they made it policy, that sent an incredibly clear message that this is important, and the wearing of face masks went up to 80 or 90%. Not because of enforcement, but because the policy in itself is a very clear message. Now, the problem is that when you take away that policy, and when you say, well, it's up to you, you can choose to do it, you can choose not to do it, that's not a neutral statement, that's a statement that it doesn't matter. And I think that's deeply problematic. And the final point is this, and it's not just about face masks, it's more generally. If you want to get people to behave responsibly, you also need to give them the resources so that they can do so when they want to do so. That's more obvious, say, in behaviours like self-isolating. If you're infected, it's all very well to want to do it, but unless you have the resources and the support, then you're not able to do it. So my concern about the message isn't about saying people have got to take responsibility. They have. It's about leaving it up to people and abandoning people, and the government not taking its responsibility seriously to support and to help people. This has got to be a partnership in which everybody, people and government, take their responsibilities seriously.
Do you think it's going to create a bit of tension in society? Because cast your mind back to the first lockdown and the way people who refused to wear masks were being treated. If joggers ran past you on the street and didn't socially distance, they were vilified. Could we see the opposite happening now? If you're wearing a mask, could it create tension with people saying, what are you doing? You don't have to wear that. Take it off. I mean, this was a discussion I had in a train carriage this afternoon with another passenger. He said, oh, well, we won't have to wear these soon. And I thought, well, actually, I might carry on wearing mine on public transport. And it just creates a bit of tension, doesn't it?
Well, first of all, I think we've got to be a bit careful about those reports. I mean, certainly conflict gets more coverage than does lack of conflict, so we tend to overestimate it. And actually, there was a lot of concern when face masks were brought in that would lead to brawls in shops, that there would be attacks upon shopkeepers, that there would be huge interventions by the police. By and large, it didn't happen. By and large, people went along with it. And I think one of the problems here is the way in which we're framing this whole conversation, as if it's about taking away our fundamental liberties. Throughout history, certainly in our recent history, when we've discovered new risks, we've taken simple and proportionate measures. So when we discovered fatalities on roads, we began to say, wear seatbelts. Now, nobody was saying that's a taking away of my fundamental liberties, it's lockdown. In fact, by now, if we get into a car and we don't wear a seatbelt, we feel rather exposed. And I think it's a matter here too. Nobody wants lockdown. Nobody wants to take away liberty. But at the same time, when you discover a new risk, it makes sense to have proportionate measures which maximize the safety without fundamentally inconveniencing us. And so there will be one or two things that change. No different from what's happened when we discovered all sorts of other risks in our history. And we don't feel as if, all our liberties are taken away as a consequence of those.
So how do you think the Prime Minister should frame it? Because I said in the build-up to July the 19th, there is a lot of discussion about what should stay, what shouldn't stay. It should all go out the window. We should just return completely to normal. How do you think the Prime Minister should frame it to get people on board with whatever changes he's making?
Well, I think one of the problems we've had throughout this pandemic is the way in which we have talked about measures being equivalent to restrictions, that it's about lockdown and so on. And I think we need to think much more in terms of support. How can we support people to stay safe? So, for instance, if we want homes and we want businesses to be well ventilated, absolutely fine. But you've got to support people, A, in perhaps giving them the resources so they can put ventilation in their businesses and homes, B, giving people the information they need to know what is ventilated and what isn't ventilated. So let's think about this in terms of government working with the public, not abandoning the public, not lecturing the public, not hectoring the public and telling them what to do, but us working together and the government helping us to keep ourselves and our communities safe.
Simon Riker, Professor of Social Psychology at the University of St Andrews. Really interesting to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to talk to the head of that press conference, of course, at 5 o'clock, that news conference. Boris Johnson speaking at Downing Street. You can watch it live here on Sky News. Let's take a look at the weather now.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
It's going to stay unsettled for the next few days. There'll be heavy showers and some more prolonged rain, but it will turn drier to end this week. Before then, many places will be fine to end this afternoon, bar the odd shower, but southwestern Britain will be wet and windy. Northern and central Scotland can expect some heavy showery outbreaks. England, Wales and the southern Scottish counties will see heavy rain spreading from the southwest tonight, while strengthening winds in the south will bring gales to the Channel. Elsewhere, showers will largely die out.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
You're watching the Sarah Jamie Show here on Sky News, coming up at 4 o'clock. We'll have more of our special coverage from Afghanistan as the Taliban makes gains before the US withdrawal is even complete. It's 4 o'clock. This is the Sarah Jamie Show. Coming up in the next hour, face to face with the Taliban. Sky News reports from inside the militant group's territory as it takes advantage of the US withdrawal from Afghanistan.
This is a crucial highway which the Taliban have been trying to get control of. But the fact that the Taliban have got so close to the capital is showing them they're making gains.
Man who ran the country for 30 years lashes out at the West as they leave Afghanistan.
Come and barge into our homes. Do things which are horrible. Bomb our villages in the name of fighting the Taliban.
Also today, the health minister says she can't wait to get rid of her mask ahead of the Prime Minister's COVID news conference at 5 o'clock. And the England team in high spirits ahead of that Euro semi-final on Wednesday. Hello, good afternoon. Today, Sky News reports exclusively from behind Taliban lines as the Islamist movement secures victory after victory across Afghanistan. Their advance comes 20 years after American-led forces invaded the country to force them from power in the wake of the 9/11 terror attacks. Well, US troops have almost completed their withdrawal after a conflict that has cost them and the Afghan people dearly. Afghan civilians have suffered huge losses of life, with more than 47,000 killed since 2001. While the Afghan government keeps the army's death toll a secret to avoid damaging morale, estimates show that between 66,000 and 69,000 Afghan soldiers have also been killed. More than 2,400 US soldiers and 455